What is going on, everybody? This is your host, Frank Mattis of the show Let's Be Frank. This is episode 6, and boy, do we have a lot to get into. The Phillies clinch the NL East last night. The Eagles got out a victory in New Orleans, a very frustrating game, but a game we won nonetheless. And the Sixers give Joel Embiid the bag. So there's a lot of good things to get into today. And I know I usually start off with the Eagles, but today I'm going to start off with the Phillies because, as you are aware, the Phillies clinched the NL East as of last night. They defeated the Chicago Cubs by a score of 6-2. And this game was over right from the get-go. And yeah, the Phillies clinch, and this is the first time since 2011 since they've won the NL East. And I had a conversation with my one buddy. Should the Phillies be excited about winning the NL East? And I said absolutely, because if you don't win the NL East, you're not getting the 1 seed. So it's very important. Obviously the Phillies have had success. Despite not winning the division, it's not always a given that you win the division or even get the 1 seed that you're going to automatically just walk into the World Series. Obviously, stranger things have happened. Playoff baseball is a different animal. Things change, and it's all about momentum. And nobody really expected the Rangers and the Diamondbacks to be in the World Series last year, but that was the case. But I do think with this Phillies team getting the 1 seed, winning the NL East, I think is huge, because the Phillies have, without question, the best home field advantage in all of baseball. And so I propose this question to you guys. Is this a World Series or bust season for the Philadelphia Phillies? Do the Philadelphia Phillies have to win the World Series this year? Me personally, I would say yes. The stars have aligned. You have a great lineup, great rotation. Your bullpen has been fine to good throughout the season. You have the depth. Personally, I've been very critical of Topper over the last couple of years and some of his decision-making in the postseason, but I think this year he has done a tremendous job. They've battled through injuries. They've battled through tough stretches, and he has really kept that team afloat and has done a really good job this season. So, when you factor in all that, when you factor in the fact that they've been here before, and now that they're a much more improved team, I think they got to win the World Series, and I think there's no excuses. I would be very disappointed if they don't win. Obviously, anytime your team doesn't win, but I think specifically this year with the guys that they have, whether it's the lineup, the bullpen, the rotation, the depth, I think it's all there. I think it's all there for the Phillies. Now, I know the Dodgers with Shohei Ohtani might have something to say about that, but we've all seen the Dodgers crash and burn in October many of times, and the only World Series that they've won was a COVID-shortened season. So they do have a track record of falling apart. And then, in the AL, you have the Yankees, obviously, now that they have Juan Soto to go along with Aaron Judge, who is as dominant as he's ever been. They're going to want to have something to say about that as well. When you look at the National League, I don't really fear any other team other than the Dodgers, to be honest with you. I mean, teams can obviously get hot, but with the roster that they have, I can't see this team not winning a World Series. Or at the very least get to a World Series. I think they can absolutely do it. They've shown that even though they had that tough stretch past the All-Star break, they were able to weather that storm and get healthy and get better. And I think it's a testament to the guys that they have in their clubhouse. Like I said, I've been critical of Topper and some of his decision making, but I think he's done a really good job throughout the year. Obviously, with Ranger Suarez struggling, moving him to the 4th spot and elevating, or not elevating, but bumping Christopher Sanchez to the 3 spot, I think is smart. So I really like where this team is at, and it's Red October, man, and I'm super excited. And there's not a better place to play, and there's no better home field advantage than Citizens Bank Park. And I think that the time is now to get over the hump, and third time's a charm. And I'm really excited to see the Phillies in the postseason. I really think that this is our year, and I think the players know it as well. And there's that sense of urgency there, and this is going to be a tough team to beat. So I definitely believe that this is a World Series or bust situation. It wouldn't be the end of the world. It's not like they have to gut their roster for whatever reason, but the time is now. The time is now. They still have a chance at winning or getting the 1 seed. I just don't see. I mean, they're going to get a first round bye regardless. And if there's a situation where the Phillies finish with the same records as Dodgers because they've won 5-1 during the regular season, they would obviously get the tiebreaker. So that is a very brutal place to play if you're an opposing team, and with the swagger and the moxie that this team has. I think it's going to culminate with a World Series. I really believe it. This is our time. This is our year. And I want to see another World Series as to all of you. And lastly, on the Phillies, can we stop with dancing on our own? I mean, seriously, like it's time to change the playoff song for the love of God. I mean, it was fun in 2022. Last year, you kind of got into it because 2022 was such a surprise. Not a huge surprise in that we obviously have a really good team, but I don't think anybody expected us to go to the World Series. I thought that they were a good team but not a flawed team. So that song obviously was played everywhere. You couldn't avoid it. And then last year it was just kind of like, all right, like why are we doing this again? So for me personally, and I know a lot of Philadelphia Phillies fans have the same sentiment, I think it's time to replace the song. I think it's time. So yeah, that song had its purpose, but I think it's time for a new thing. And hopefully this time it will bring us a World Series. So that is that for the Phillies. Next, I want to talk about the Eagles, and boy, that was quite the game on Sunday. Now, right off the bat, just a disclaimer: I didn't watch the game live. I was actually at Longwood Gardens with my girlfriend. Her mom bought us tickets to celebrate her birthday, so I ended up doing that, and it was the right decision. It turned out because let's just say my liver would not be looking so good after that struggle of a game that was on Sunday. But I tried to watch as much as I can during the time I was there, and I obviously went back and rewatched. First and foremost, defense. That's how you play defense, baby. Incredible way to answer the bell. Carter and Davis were raked over the coals throughout the week, and rightfully so. And they played extremely well, especially Jalen Carter. This is why we drafted these guys. This is why we drafted Jalen Carter. When he's focused and he's dialed in, he can be one of the most indestructible defensive tackles in all football. And he was phenomenal throughout the entire game. Also, shout out to Brandon Graham, dude. Brandon Graham, did not play very well last year, and it was coming off the heels of a 11-sack season, his first double-digit sack season. And last year, he didn't get on the field and wasn't playing well. But I got to tell you, man, this guy's an ageless wonder, and he's been playing really good. Josh Sweat, I thought, played very well in the game. He got a lot of pressures. He's the type of guy that sort of does the little things right. He's one of our best. He's definitely one of the best, or one of our better run defenders on the edge, and he can pressure the quarterback. But he's a guy that might not get a ton of sacks, but he's somebody that does the little things, and that's very important. Zach Bond had a much better game than he did in week 2. He looked like he was in week 1, being where he needs to be, and he was all over the field. I thought Nakobe Dean played a lot better this time around. So what a tremendous performance by the defense when you can hold a Saints team that scored 90 plus points in 2 games. Though it is early in the season, and some might argue, well, the Saints are sort of a fraudulent team, and it was sort of a fraud check for them. And if you get the Derek Carr, he makes terrible decisions. But listen, when your offense doesn't get the job done and your offense and your coaching staff make terrible decisions and you bail your team out, that is something that is very encouraging, because there sometimes you just you have the guys you have, and that's what you got to deal with. And unless you trade for somebody or acquire somebody, or a guy comes back from injury, that you didn't have usually, I mean, that could help your team, obviously, but at the same time, sometimes you are what you are. But I think the defense quieted a lot of doubters, including myself. Josh Sweat, or not Josh Sweat, excuse me, Bryce Huff was a non-factor again. That's a bit of a problem. And honestly, if BG keeps playing the way he's playing, keep him in there and keep Bryce Huff off the field. BG deserves to play and he deserves to be in there. And Bryce Huff, for whatever reason, is just not working right now. It's still 3 games in. Maybe with the bye week coming up, he can make some adjustments. They can, Clint Hurt, the D-line coach, Vic Fangio can work with him and get him up to speed. But it's not looking good for him right now. And if BG keeps playing the way he's playing, keep him in there. Screw it. So bravo to the defense. Darius Slay had a much better performance this week. Kenyon Mitchell, a bit up and down at times. Oh, Reed Blankenship was phenomenal. I forgot to bring that up. Obviously, he had the interception to seal the deal. He was tremendous throughout the game, or for the majority of the game. He was pretty productive and produced and was where he needed to be. And Kenyon Mitchell, they're going to pick on him because he's a rookie. But I'm seeing growth with the guy, and it's very valuable experience for him. And I think people need to be a little bit patient if he gives up a lot of yards, because I do think at the end of the day, he is a young guy. He is a rookie, and he's going to make mistakes. But I think by later in the season, especially if our D line can get home and get after the quarterback, they can he can take advantage of that. But I'm seeing improvement there, and you just got to be patient with a young guy like him. And as far as the offense is concerned, got to protect the ball, Jalen. Got to protect the ball. You cannot turn the ball over in the red zone. Just cannot have it. I think when you take away the turnovers and you look at, obviously he's a much better threat this year running the ball, or at least so far he looks a lot better. But you got to clean up some things, and you can't force throws, and you have to, can't turn the ball over in the red zone. Period. End of story. And you take away the turnovers, I think he's done a pretty good job. I know that's pretty easy to say, and it's pretty self-explanatory and kind of stating the obvious. But I do think when you factor in running the football, and when he does see the field, and he did see the field throughout the game, especially late in the game, attacking the middle of the field. And I think that's very important. And I said it in early podcasts. I think the key with the Eagles is attack the middle of the field. When you have guys like Dallas Goedert, you have guys like Devontae Smith, attacking the middle of the field is going to be key. And I've noticed they implemented a lot of that during this game, and it ended up helping the Eagles. It helped Jalen Hurts. And that's, you just got to see the field, and you can't force throws because they will be there. They will be there. And once Jalen starts to pick these things up, I think he's going to be fine. But the turnovers, it is a little alarming. It's concerning, but hopefully with he sees the film, sees these guys open, and continues to attack the middle of the field. And with AJ coming back eventually, the way that they schemed Goddard open, especially on the 3rd and 16, which was a tremendous play by Jalen Hurts to recognize that. Also, very good job by Jahan Dotson, causing confusion for the Saints defenders there. And Dallas Goedert obviously was off and running, and he was phenomenal throughout the entire game. And I think now we can finally put an end to the tight end screens, and can we actually start going forward, stretching Dallas Goedert out, because when healthy, when in the game plan, when you throw him the ball, he produces. He can be a all-pro caliber tight end. And Sunday was proof of that. We don't need to run any more tight end screens with Devontae Smith blocking, for the love of God. Stretch this guy, up and or all around the field. Not only can he produce and be a threat there, but he can also help other guys underneath Devontae, AJ, Saquon. To me, I think that's key, is stretching him out and making the most of his skill set, which is not in the screen game. To me, I think that's a waste of a play. And, it's good to see Dallas Goedert be a factor in the offense, like we all know he can be. And not only can he obviously produce, but he can also open guys up underneath. So that's something I want to see more of. And you did see that throughout the game, especially later in the game. And, that's when Jalen was at his best. So that's something that if you're Kellen Moore, that needs to be a factor in this offense. Saquon Barkley, doing Saquon Barkley things. Shout out to Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata on that 60-yard touchdown run. Just an absolute beautiful block. Beautiful blocks by those guys, sealing it up. Arguably the best left side of any O-line in all of the NFL. And when you have Saquon Barkley and his ability to recognize open holes, he's going to take off. And he's really a special player. I mean, if you take away the drop in week 2, he's the front runner for MVP. I mean, he's been a game changer for this Eagles offense. And if we can make better decisions, both from the quarterback perspective and the head coaching perspective, I think that we will be much better for it, because Saquon Barkley is a tremendous talent. And you factor in the talent that we have around them. I think the offense should be fine. But unfortunately, when you make terrible decisions in terms of not taking points, when your defense is playing lights out, you're going to lose games. And they're very fortunate they did not lose this game. And they're very fortunate that they had the defense and Goddard and Barkley bail themselves out, because that hot seat would have been scorching hot for Nick Sirianni, let me tell you. Listen, as far as the fourth down calls are concerned, I don't mind aggressiveness. Like I mentioned, I didn't mind the aggressive call to go for it last week. I think that they were just they were absolutely controlling the line of scrimmage and dominating on that drive against the Falcons in the first quarter that they ended up going for. But you got to know when to do it, and you got to take points when they're there, and you got to reward the defense who's playing lights out, and you don't want to put that pressure on them, because, this is a bit of a bend don't break defense, excuse me. And if they, they're going to eventually give up a big play, and, when you don't take advantage, of at least 6 points, like they did in this game. And they easily could have had 6 points, maybe even with the Jalen Hurts interception. If he didn't turn the ball over, it could have got 9, maybe even a touchdown there. So you just got to understand game flow. You got to understand, how the game is going. The 2 fourth down calls were not, they shouldn't have been made. They clearly should not have been made. And again, I don't mind the aggressiveness. Obviously, when Doug Peterson was here, he was one of the more aggressive coaches. So I don't mind it, but you got to know when to do it. And you got to take the points. And when you have a kicker like Jake Elliott, obviously, he did miss a 60-yard field goal. But that happens. Not everyone's perfect. Even Jake Elliott's not perfect. But at the same time, they're free points when you're in your opponent's 30-yard line, and that's well within Jake Elliott's range. And you gotta take the points and understand that your defense is dominating, and your defense is not giving up any points. So the best way to reward them is to put points on the board and it's sort of take the pressure off them. Not enough pressure to get them complacent, but you got to. It's all about complementary football, and it's almost like if the Eagles had the offense like they had in week 1 and the Eagles had the defense like they had in week 3, imagine what the ceiling of this team would be. And I think it would be. I think it's still very high. I still think the Eagles are going to be fine. Seeing what I saw from the defense was very encouraging. Seeing Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis get after it, seeing guys like Brandon Graham stepping up, Josh Sweat doing the little things right, Zach Bond proving that week 1 game was not a fluke, seeing guys like Kenyon Mitchell get better, Nakobe Dean get better, Reed Blankenship, one of the unsung heroes of the team. I'm proud that he's getting the love that he deserves because he's one of those guys that, listen, there wasn't much to look there. I mean, nobody really had a lot of expectations for Reed Blankenship. Nobody expected him to do what he's doing now. And what he's doing now is sort of a bonus. And listen, when you're paying guys a lot of money, you need guys to sort of come out of nowhere and produce and be a starter for this team because, as good as Howie Roseman is with the cap, you're going to have to find hidden gems. And boy, Reed Blankenship is a hidden gem for sure. So if this defense can build some momentum and continue to get better and continue to go after the quarterback with that offense and then making the right decisions with the head coach and the quarterback, I think we're going to be fine. I really do. Also, shout out to Tyler Steen and Fred Johnson stepping up for Mekhi Becton and Lane Johnson. I thought they played very well. This is a very deep offensive line group. They always put a premium on offensive line, and then you obviously have Jeff Stoutland, who's the best offensive line coach that I've seen, maybe with the exception of Dante Scarnecchia with the Patriots. The fact that you lose the right side of your line and those two guys step up and don't miss a beat, I mean that's very impressive. And kudos to those guys. Kudos to Jeff Stoutland for coaching them up and getting them ready. So, gutsy win for the Eagles. If they didn't win that game, oh boy, that would have been bad. But a win is a win is a win. You'll obviously take that. There's still room for improvement. Defense cannot get complacent. Jalen Hurts cannot turn the ball over. Nick Sirianni needs to take the points and, reward your defense with points. And, obviously, you got to hope that Smitty and Lane Johnson can play this week and, give this team, the artillery, more weapons at their disposal for Jalen Hurts. And obviously, guys like Smitty and Lane Johnson are very, very crucial pieces to this team. They were able to play without them, but ideally you want to have those guys on the field. So hopefully they can get healthy. There's still some things to work on, but I still feel optimistic about this team, especially within this division. The Giants won. Cool. I mean, Malik Neighbors is great, but if you take him out, what are they really? And then the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, you want to talk about a front runner? That's the Dallas Cowboys. You score 2 touchdowns on the Dallas Cowboys, game is over. They do not know how to handle adversity. They do not play with a sense of urgency. And, Dak, I thought played well in the second half. He obviously had a good fourth quarter, but his lack of a sense of urgency early on in the game and, being so late in the game where you decide to play with that sense of urgency, it's too late. And this is what Dallas is. Their defense is horrible. Dak Prescott, if he played with a more sense of urgency in the first half, they probably could have won that game, but he didn't. And that team does not know how to play with a lead or play from behind. They only know how to play with a lead. When they play from with a lead, they look like world beaters. They'll probably look like world beaters against the Giants this week when they blow them out, and all the Dallas Cowboys fans are going to be like, how about them Cowboys? Well, your Cowboys cannot handle adversity. And, though Dak Prescott did somewhat. I mean, I shouldn't say somewhat, though he was leading a comeback. I still haven't seen a comeback from him. And I don't remember a time where he's ever just found a way to win. Like Jalen Hurts, say what you want about Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts did not play particularly well in the first half. And there's a lot of things he needs to work on. But that 3rd and 16, man, that to see Goddard and to give him the ball and let the other guys around you do all the work and what he's been able to do with his legs. Dak Prescott is not that much of a factor anymore with his legs. Jalen Hurts is going to be fine. Jalen Hurts, despite his flaws, he will find a way to win games. He's proven to find a way to win games. Dak Prescott, not so much. So I don't fear the Cowboys. I don't fear the Giants. Commanders, on the other hand, Jane Daniels is the real deal Holyfield. That guy is good. And if you noticed last year against the Commanders, the Eagles barely beat the Commanders in both those games. I mean, they gave us fits. Now that you have a dynamic quarterback who can do the things that he does, who's very dynamic as a runner, he's accurate, he's smooth. The only thing that they have to worry about is how many hits is he taking, because he looks legit, and he's by far the best rookie quarterback so far this season, and he worries me. That team, out of all the teams in the NFC East, whether it's the Cowboys, Giants, Commanders are the ones that scare me the most. So, and then obviously they're in first place right now because they have a division win over the Giants. But to me, I think going forward, at least in that division, that's the team to beat. And it's still early. A lot of things can happen, but I think Sunday was a good win for the Eagles because there was a lot working against them, and they were able to gut out a victory. And they had a lot of people in the media, fans breathing down their neck, raking them over the coals from what happened on Monday night, and rightfully so. But to get a win like that when your coach is making terrible decisions and you win in spite of him, at times in a lot of ways, that's a good win. That's a good win. But there is obviously a lot to clean up. But if Jalen Hurts can cut down on the turnovers, and that defense can play with their hair on fire like they did Sunday, and their defensive line can get after the quarterback, I don't know what we're going to get from Bryce Huff. It doesn't look good so far, but you still have the other guys around you. You still have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, the ageless wonder. I think they'll be fine, and they're only going to get better, and we just need to clean some things up, and I think we'll be fine. I was very encouraged from what I saw from the defense, and they ultimately helped us win. So, yeah, that's going to be it for the Eagles. Before I talk about Joel Embiid and his new contract, I want to let you guys know about our sponsor, Warlord Beard Oil. If you go to warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code OLDSPORTS, you get 15% off site-wide. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping. So if you go to www.warlordbeardoil.com, use the promo code OLDSPORTS, you get 15% off. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping. So, speaking of Joel Embiid, as you're aware, Joel Embiid got the bag. He got a 3-year, $192.9 million contract extension. And, yeah, I think it's well-deserved for the most part. Now, I like Joel Embiid a lot. When he's healthy and he's humming, he's indestructible. And he is a very dominant player. But when you've won an MVP, you do the things that you do, we got to see more in return in the postseason. We cannot have any more 15-point game sevens against the Celtics like we did in 2023. You got to be able to beat a one-man Knicks team with Jalen Brunson in the postseason. I know he was a little banged up, but that's also another issue. You got to stay healthy. And there's no excuses this year. None. there are no excuses for the Sixers team and Joel Embiid because there's no more scapegoats. There's no more Ben Simmons. There's no more James Hardens. There's no more Tobias Harris to blame. You got the bag. You're a former MVP. You now have, along with Tyrese Maxey, who's a budding superstar in the NBA, you have a guy in Paul George who still has a lot left in the tank and is a perfect piece for the Sixers team, a NBA championship coach in Nick Nurse. It's time to get it done. No more excuses. This is the year to do it. This is the year. Just like the Phillies, and they've been there. They've been to the World Series, so it's more of a World Series or bust. I wouldn't say it's an NBA title or bust because Boston is really good, but we got to get past the second round. And if all things go well, either the Sixers or Celtics will get the 1 seed and the other team will get the 2 seed, and then those two will meet in the conference finals. Stranger things have happened, but in theory, on paper, those are the two best teams in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, the Knicks with crap, I'm blanking on his name. Villanova kid. What's his name? Mikal Bridges, excuse me. My apologies. They got Mikal Bridges. And they obviously have a good nucleus there with Jalen Brunson. And they're going to obviously be viable as well. But the Sixers have a loaded team. And like I said, no more scapegoats, no more putting the blame on Ben Simmons or James Harden or Tobias Harris. There's none of that. It's all going to be on Joel. It's going to be on Joel to produce in the postseason. It's going to be on Joel to win in the postseason. It's going to be on Joel to stay healthy. And I think the Sixers should be fine. They should finally get over that second round barrier and get to a conference finals at the very least, possibly the NBA finals. They have the talent. And I've noticed this with a lot of Philadelphia sports fans. There is a bit of a Sixers fatigue in this city. There's a lot of Sixers fans that are like, okay, like when is this going to happen? When are they going to get past the second round? I'm pretty much checked out till they do. That's sort of the vibe I get from a lot of Sixers fans. And listen, I know I've been critical of Joel in this podcast so far, but I do believe in him. And I do believe when he's healthy and he's on, he's one of the most indestructible players I've seen. And if you want to get that AI treatment, I mean, you want to talk about a guy with no supporting cast who had to do it on his own, who got to an NBA Finals. You have Tyrese Maxey, who's is an all-star and a future Hall of Famer in Paul George. Like, something's got to give, dude. And I think if he stays healthy, and he definitely hears the chatter from the media and the fans, but if he can put it all together, I can easily see this team going to the NBA Finals. But they need to do it this year because you're going to lose a lot of fans. And I'm starting to see them lose some fans, over the last couple of years because of their failures in the postseason. And now that you bring in Paul George, now that you bring in or now you give Joel the bag, and now he's got a gold medal to his name for whatever that's worth. No more excuses. It's time to get it done. But I have faith, and I hope Joel understands that and goes above and beyond and brings this city a title potentially. So that's that. There was a lot to get into. I had a lot of fun talking about these things because, there's going to be a couple weeks and all these teams, all 4 teams, the Eagles, the Phillies, the Flyers, the Sixers, they'll all be playing, and there'll be a lot to talk about. So, the best is yet to come. You obviously have the Phillies. Red October is upon us. They obviously won the NL East. They look to get the 1 seed. The Eagles, at least for this week, quite a lot of people in terms of defense. And with Paul George joining the fold, I'm curious to see what the Sixers do this year. And then the Flyers. Obviously, you have the Mad Hatter and a lot of these young guys looking to make a name for themselves and getting the Flyers over the hump. So that's that. I look forward to seeing you guys later. I don't know if I'll do a pod later this week. I might, depend upon my schedule. But there'll be a lot to talk about. So Take care and have a great day.